All right. Well, thank you all for joining me today. This is the Lost Lake Run volunteer orientation. In the past, we have all met at the IHOP, and I've fed you dinner. So this year we're being a little bit more COVID conscious, and we're doing this by Zoom. So I appreciate you all attending tonight. The purpose for recording this is so that those folks that for some reason were unable to attend, or if they miss the first part of this, can come back and review it. I will take what you're seeing tonight, convert it into a PDF file and send it to you. So I've been making revisions all the way up to just before the meeting, and there might be some things that come up during the meeting. So I'll make some last minute changes as needed and then send you one version that hopefully will be good enough for the race. So what we want to do tonight, I'd like to go over our COVID plan. I won't belabor this. You'll see lots of components of it as we go through this. Review the schedule of activities, describe what each volunteer's activity should be. I'm going to give you task assignments this evening. At the very end, we'll provide some hotel room assignments for those volunteers that requested a room. And if I've done my job well tonight, then each of you will go away knowing where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and what you're supposed to do when you're there. And then also you'll know who's going to be there with you. And so if I've done this well, that will be the case. What I'd like to do is use the chat box for questions and answers. So I'll try to keep my eyes, I can see the chat up above. If you have a question, type it into the chat, I'll check it and then answer it as we go along. Alternatively, you can just unmute and yell at me. So the COVID plan that we have this year has changed the Lost Lake Run considerably from how we've typically done it. What we're trying to do with our COVID plan is to reduce the crowds and indoor activities. So one of the things that immediately went away was the spaghetti feed on Friday evening. We've reduced the number of bib pickups from 2 to 1. We eliminated the awards ceremony, the barbecue, the beer, a lot of the DJ, the kinds of things that we were doing at the finish line that were more festive and crowd gathering are now being eliminated. What we're doing is we're asking each of the participants when they're done with the race is to pick up their shirt or shirts, grab their runner's bag, grab a sandwich, and then get back on a bus and head back. There's going to be folks that are going to stay and wait for their friends and family to finish and cheer them on. And we're not police. We're not the COVID police. So if people are hanging out and aggregating, we're at least asking them to wear a mask if they would. I'm going to make that one of the scripts on the bus. So we'll talk about this in a bit. But when we have everybody on the bus just before they leave the Seward High School parking area, we're going to have a few last minute reminders. And one of them would be wear a mask on the bus. And another one is going to be if you're going to be in a crowded area, wear your mask then. I'm asking all of the volunteers also to wear masks. So I will wear a mask and I'm asking everybody else to do that. This is so that the people that are there feel comfortable and safe. And I'm going to have lots of hand sanitizer, one at every one of the stations that we have. This is just stuff that I didn't know where to stick anywhere else, so I stuck it up front. Trash cans, if you see a trash can that's full or nearly full, if you would bundle it up and throw it into the dumpster, we're going to have a dumpster on site. There should be lots of empty bags stuffed at the bottom of every can. So we usually set 8 or 10 bags at the bottom of a can, and then we put one in there. And so there should always be one for you to reline it with. I've attempted to make sure that everybody has enough people at a station that you guys can self-organize for breaks. So you can go get some food, use the restroom if you've got somebody in the race and you want to cheer them on at the finish line. So it's up to you to kind of figure out. I've assigned you an area. You guys can self-organize and figure out how you want to handle your timing. As I mentioned, I'll send out a PDF version of this. I will have volunteer shirts for everybody on Friday and Saturday. So look for me to get your shirt. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to use the Q&A feature to ask questions. So let's start off with the big picture. The Lost Lake Run, and many of you may not be familiar with this. You're volunteering and helping for the first time. So I wanted to give you the big picture. So what happens is We bring everybody into the Seward High School and they park their vehicle. And then we have a set of 6 buses, and those buses will bus these people all the way up to the Primrose Campground, which is the starting line for the Lost Lake Run. That's 16.2 miles from Seward High School, and it takes approximately 22 minutes to get there, according to Google. And then we finish at the Bear Creek Fire Department, which is down here. So the runners are going to run up across the top here and back down. We are going to take vehicles back and forth. So this gives you the big picture. Now let's kind of break it down into a schedule of activities. On Friday, which is August 27th, coming up day after tomorrow, we set up Primrose, we set up Bear Creek, and we put out some parking signage. Then Saturday, very early in the morning, we start by parking vehicles at the Seward High School. That will run from approximately 6 to around 9:30, maybe stretch as long as 10 o'clock. Then the runners, given the 30 minutes it takes to get to the starting line, will start somewhere between 7 and 10 a.m. They will be starting. So over a 3-hour period, as a bus comes in to the Primrose Campground, we're asking the runners to get off the bus, drop their personal items in a runner's bag, and I'll talk about runner's bags here in a bit.
Okay, how do I get the volume to work?
Who's that? Could you make sure you mute if you're not me, because everybody can hear you talk. And then from 10:30 to 4, runners will start coming into the Bear Creek Fire Station, and we will give them their finish time, give them a shirt, give them a sandwich, give them their runner's bags, and there will be a set of 2 buses that will return them back to the Seward High School so they can retrieve their vehicle. About 4 o'clock, everybody should be off the trail. Typically that's the case, although I have waited until 5 or later for sometimes for some people. Because it's a mat start and a mat finish, each one of the bibs is going to have an RFID tag on the back of it. And so they will go across the starting line. And when they go across the starting line, they activate the bib. And then when they go across the finish line, they activate it a second time. So what that means is we know who started and we will know who's left on the mountain. So by keeping in touch, and I keep very close touch with the timing team, we know who's left. So we account for everybody coming off the hill. Then after we break everything down, put everything back in the U-Haul, we go and rest that night. It'll be a very long day. We'll be very tired. So go back to your hotel, take a break. And then at 10 a.m. the following day, we will get together and have a brunch. And at the brunch, what I like to do is get everybody's input about where they were and what they did and what they saw and heard. So it's a chance for us to say, here's what we did well, and here's where we need some more work. And so by iteratively improving each year, we can make the Lost Lake Run a better and better activity. The brunch is going to have eggs and bacon and I think sausage and this, the normal breakfast stuff. So looking forward to that. That's usually fun. And that's just for us volunteers. So here's the big picture for parking. The lead for parking will be Mike Schlegel. He's not on the line right now. He's going and getting his vehicle fixed. But Mike has done parking for me for many, many years and has done it here in the past 2 times we parked at the Seward High School. So he knows the way to lay everything out. What I'm showing you here reflects some of the comments that he's made during some of these volunteer brunches in the past. So the first thing to keep in mind is that if you look at the map, it looks like when you want to get to Seward High School, you take Sea Lion Drive and it takes you up to the Seward High School. Unfortunately, that is not the way to get to Seward High School parking. I've got an arrow here and we will have a sign here. I'll show you that in a second. But there's a gate right here that will stop you from making entrance into this parking area. So you can't get in there. We're putting the buses up Sea Lion Avenue because they can then do a roundabout and come back out. but everybody else is going to be redirected down and come up Coolidge Drive and up through the neighborhood and come in on this side. I like this very much because it is a choke point for all of the parking. So we can redirect people either down this path, which will fill these parking areas, or we can then, when those are full, direct them down this path, which will allow us to fill these parking areas. So let me show you some signage. These are sign cades. That's called a sign cage or a sidewalk board. And then these signs would go into that. And we want to distribute those along this trail so that folks that are coming in will know, okay, I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. Oh, I make a right turn here, I go up here, I make a right turn here, and I make a right turn here. So we've made an attempt to put directing arrows. We also may consider putting somebody right here because it's such a common spot. There's literally a sign that says Seward High School and it points there, that's on the road. So it's very common for people to think that's the right way to go because there's a sign that says that's the right way to go. And we're telling them, no, go this way. So this will be part of the signage plan. We'll go through the signage here again in a second. There's a parking plan. So if this is an aerial view of Seward High School here, you'll see there's parking areas here. We want to fill those first. And as I mentioned, we'll control access and then we'll fill this area here second, then overflow third and fourth. This should be plenty of parking for everybody for the Lost Lake Run. We should not run out of parking. So the way it'll work is people will park, they'll come over to this spot and we'll bring the buses in on Sea Lion Avenue and they'll go through this, around this cul-de-sac and leave. And we will load them out here one at a time. We will have a set of 6 portable toilets located here, and then we'll have our bib pickup tents here. We'll have 2 tents, 4 tables, and 8 chairs. And if you see up here in the corner, on many of these slides, I will put the kinds of things that we need to make sure are there. So when you get this PDF, if you take it with you on your phone, for example, or print it out, you'll know that we need 2 tents, 4 tables, and 8 chairs at this location. We will place those there Friday in advance, but I'm just letting you know that this is the locations for things if you are in the Seward High School parking group.
I'm a volunteer for the Lost Lakes Run.
Oh.
So that's,
Please mute. I'm overhearing some conversation. I'm sorry, it's just everybody's microphone picks things up. The Bear Creek Fire Department is where a lot of activity occurs. Here's the big picture. So this is an aerial view showing the Bear Creek Fire Department here. This down here is a garage, and this is owned by Bob and Kathy Bingman, and they let us use it every year. And the finish line finishes right in front of the garage. And then we use this space all the way up to here for our activities. And I'll show you how it's broken down in just a moment. The Lost Lake Run trailhead is located up this road, the Hayden Berlin Road, and that takes you all the way up. So when people are coming, runners, they're coming down this road, they come to this corner, make a right, come down here, make another right and a left. They go right by this house here. This is Dennis Magnuson's home. He's given us permission to run right by it. They run through a little wooded area, a trail, and then they come out to the finish line here at the Bingman Garage. So this gives you the big picture of the finish line and the Bear Creek Fire Station. So now let me show you some things we have to make sure we don't have. We can't have anybody parking. Oops, let me back up. Anybody parking in this area. There's no parking allowed at the Bear Creek Fire Department. We just don't have enough space for that. We also will block off Scott Way. So Scott Way, which is located right here and going up Rough Road, I have no parking signs that will block this driveway. And we put barriers out along the sides of these roads. We were doing that because the Bear Creek Fire Department has said if there is a fire or emergency in that area in the neighborhood in the back, there's so many cars that they can't get their large equipment through. So they've asked us to block it. We also will place cones in front of these driveways here and here. And those cones, when the buses come in, we will have what we call a parking monitor. Some of you will be a parking monitor. You will remove the cones and allow the bus to come in. And that bus will be the ones that take people back to the Seward High School. If you have could you please mute? I have someone that's bleeding through. Okay, thank you. So the buses will go, this is showing just where the bus will go. So there'll be a bus located here all the time. As soon as the bus is full, or close to full, we'll have another bus come in. This one will return back and come around, and they'll just be in a perpetual cycle. They'll just constantly be rotating all the way throughout the day. So there's 2 more signcades that we want to put up, one at Scott Way, right about here, and another one right here that just indicates that there's parking in town. So people bypass this and they don't think that they're parking here. We also have some mile markers for mile 15.5. So this is the Lost Lake trailhead up here, and people will come out of the woods right about here. They run across the parking lot and then down the road and over to Bingman's garage. We want to put the 15.5 mile markers here. This is about 15.5 miles on the trail. So they don't end up actually on the trail, because at mile 15.5, they're actually along the road. So these are those mile markers. We have a mile marking team, and I'll talk about them in a moment, but they go up Friday, and they will put up mile markers every half mile, starting at mile 1 all the way to mile 15. So every half mile, there'll be a mile marker that looks like this, with a picture of somebody with cystic fibrosis, a sponsor in the upright corner, and it tells a little bit about them. And these are people in Alaska, or in some instances, former Alaskans that have cystic fibrosis. This is why we're doing this race. And this has been, as we've been told, something that's really resonated with people during the race. So we want to continue with this. Now, the setup for the Bear Creek Fire Station. So I've zoomed in here. The resolution's not great, but this is the Bear Creek Fire Station. And this is a cement pad sitting in front of the garage doors. And they have asked us this year that we put a barrier up right here that's adjacent to this driveway, so that if there's an emergency, they can pull their trucks out immediately and drive out this barrier. So we will put a barrier across here. It'll be, it'll look like parking signs, and this will block this off. So we're not allowing any people on this side of the barrier. So, you know, please just ask people not to go over there. They let us use this parking area for free. They don't ask anything of us, just that we don't block this area. So I want to make sure that we're not able to lose their trust in this. Now, all the way down here is the finish line. As I mentioned, this is the Bingman garage, and the runners come through here around the corner of the garage, and literally right here where this yellow square is, this rectangle, is the finish line mats. Then right over here, we have a medical tent, and the folks from Providence locally put a couple people and staff in there. And if there's any kind of injury or something that needs medical attention, they go immediately there. And it's usually got 1 or 2 people. Just beyond that, this is a gravel road. We want to have the orange and the hydration stations across from each other. The portable toilets will be set up here. And then this is a 40-foot container. Just north of that, this direction is north. Just north of that, there's some equipment on the ground, and just past that, we're going to put this dumpster. So this, I didn't mark it, but this is a dumpster. So this is where the dumpster will be located. Then we have 4 different stations that follow that, and each of these blue squares represents a tent. So we'll have 2 tents with tables set up here for 2021 t-shirts, and then another one for 2019 t-shirts. I'll explain why we're doing that in a moment. Then we've got the sandwiches, then the runner's bags. And again, the buses are going to come in here, they're going to park here, and they're going to come back out here. So the idea is to come in, have them hydrate, use the bathroom, get their shirts, grab a sandwich, get their bag, get on the bus, and head back. We're trying to minimize where in the past, this would be the area where we'd have everybody hang out. We'd have a beer tent here and so on. We're not doing that this year, obviously. For setup on Friday, we have flagging that we will pick up from Parks and Rec, Seward Parks and Rec. They loan us to us, and we'll put the finish line in here. And then along the finish line, we put finish line markers. These are folks that have passed away. So I didn't mention this, but we attempt in our mile markers to place each of the people progressively in age from youngest to oldest, from mile 1 to mile 15.5. And then those that are no longer with us, we put on the finish line. So anyway, here's the Lost Lake Trailhead setup plan. As I mentioned, this is the parking lot and the runners come through, but we do also have trailhead support right here. This is a focal point for Nicholas Poulos and his group that do the medic team up on the hill. We'll talk about the medic team in a bit. And then also there's the top of trail, which is the Cub Scouts. And then we have a sweep team, which is the Iversons this year, that will be coming behind all the runners and picking up mile markers. And if there's any stragglers or anyone that's injured, they will help. They'll do triage and kind of work with that. Then we have at the trailheads, both sides, we leave people there. So we'll have somebody for trailhead support here. And I will tell you who we've assigned to that position. And then Craig Torrey is the guy that will be at Primrose. So Craig will wait for everybody to leave. The Iversons will go up the trail, and then Craig is going to hang out there for a couple hours until the Iversons get to the top of the hill. The Iversons, the sweep team, will have a sat phone, and they will call Craig and say, hey, Craig, we're at the top, we're clear. And then Craig will go from Primrose over here to the Lost Lake Trailhead and lend support here. So we will leave somebody at the trailhead at Primrose in case there is some kind of emergency. Because it's a one-way trail, the only logical thing to do if someone gets hit going on the uphill side of Primrose is to bring them back out that direction. We'll have somebody there at the base that can work with that. Okay. The Primrose campground is located at the south end of Kenai Lake, and we use the parking lot to start the race. This is the parking lot here. There's a lot of shadow of trees, so it's bigger than it appears. We bring buses in, bring them around here, unload the buses at this location. Then the buses continue around, it's a loop, and come back out. And the starting line is located right about here. In the past, we would have bib pickup, runner's bags, coffee, and a large chute built for the runners. But with COVID, we're asking the runners as soon as they arrive to drop their stuff at any personal items that they have, they put in a runner's bag, and that tent will be located right here across from the starting line. The timing team will be here, and there will be a U-Haul truck that I'm bringing down with me that will be empty. And so somebody from the runner's bags team for Primrose will drive that truck out there. It won't be me because I need to be at the Seward High School, but then they'll fill up this truck with the runner's bags and bring it back, and then we'll sort those bags out at the finish line for when runners come back. So there's 4 pages of this, and I'll go slowly through these, and then again you will get these when you get the PDF. So the way these assignments work is I've got across the top the different assignment areas that we will go through in each one of these one by one, so you'll know what they mean. So for example, if you're part of the Seward setup, which is Friday, there's some folks that have volunteered to help. There'll be an X here. So Dee Athnos and Justin Matley graciously agreed to help on Friday. So they're part of the Seward sign-up team. They're also going to be part of the Seward High School parking team, and they're going to be handling runners' bags at Bear Creek. So those are the 3 assigned activities, and then they'll help us with cleanup at the end, the breakdown, which is it's kind of like everybody who's there basically can. If there's an L, for example, here, Kathy Balcom has an L, she is the lead for parking monitors. So I try to identify 1 or 2 people that are the leads so that there's somebody in charge for that activity. It doesn't necessarily mean that much, but at least then people know if they're new to this or they didn't follow it or they, anyway, they're the lead. And then the leads, if you have questions, you come to me. In situations where I thought maybe a co-lead would be better than a lead, you'll see 2 L's. But anyway, for example, I saw that Jonna and Tad are with us this evening. Jonna, you're the boss. So sorry about that, Tad. And then the Borings will be joining the DeGrays, and they will be doing runner's bags at Primrose, and they'll be doing runner's bags again at Bear Creek. So this helps kind of see who your teams are. So although it's not organized all alphabetically, I've tried to group it so that like people are together. All right, so this is one group. Then we have Julian Fisher, and I don't think Carl is with us this year, but he was part of the Boy Scout troop from the Seward Scouts. Julian's with us this evening, and he coordinates with Nicholas Poulos for trail support, and then the troops, the Cub Scouts, the Scouts, I should say. They're not Cub Scouts, they're Scouts. My apologies. The Scouts make water for everybody. So this is a great function, because by the time folks get to the top of the hill, they're out of water. It's 6-8 miles on about halfway through this trail. So the Scouts have been making water throughout the day, and they distribute that either in cups or they allow people to fill up their containers. David Freeman and Julianne Manerick, they are photographers and have been for years. Gary Green's from the CF Foundation. We've got the Hutchings. They're doing hydration for oranges, and they'll be helping us with parking. The Iversons, as I mentioned, our sweep team. And this was one where there's not necessarily one leader, so they're co-leads. But anyway, they're doing the sweeping. Thank you. Stephanie Kaiser is the lady that heads up the medical station at Bear Creek. Adrian Kemp and Shannon McNulty are coming up from the lower 48, and they have graciously agreed to help us out. So they'll help with parking in the morning, and then they'll help with shirts in the afternoon. So next page. Lisa Kennedy and Stan Orbaugh. I saw Stan was with us. They'll help with parking. They'll do hydration at Bear Creek. The Crawbackers, which are Tanya's parents, I believe, will be doing trail marking on Friday. So they're going to actually go up the trail, and they push a little wheel, literally, and as soon as it clicks over at the half-mile mark, they put in a trail marker. And they do this all the way from the trailhead at Primrose to the end, and then the sweep team will go back and pick those up the next day as they sweep through. Lori Landstrom is a PA, and so I've assigned her as a trailhead at, so she'll be going to the Lost Lakeside trailhead. These folks that you see here are the Nicholas Poulos, Heather Liller. Those are the 2 leads. They coordinate an entire team of Nordic Ski Patrol people that are spread out across the trail, and they're providing support, medical support. It's become an absolutely essential part of what we're doing, and it has improved our safety tremendously. So that's our trail support medical team. This is The McCasklins will be doing hydration with water and parking. Laura McNaughton, she'll be doing shirts and bibs. Denny Murphy will be doing shirts. So you can just see where your name is, Brian Fearson. Chris and Mike Schlegel. Christina Schlegel is on the board. Mike is her husband. Mike has done parking, as I mentioned in the past, and he's the lead for that. Chris has done shirts probably for almost as long as we've had this event. And so she'll lead one of the 2 t-shirt teams. My sister, Pam Ellis, will do the other one. I mentioned Craig Torrey before. There's me. And then Deanna Whitcomb is also on the board, and she's the lead for sandwiches. This used to be barbecue, but this year she's arranged to have sandwiches made. She's bringing those from Soldotna. They are individually wrapped, and we'll have a bag of chips to go with that, so that each runner will have an individually wrapped sandwich and a bag of chips that they can take away with them. So these are those task areas, and we're going to go through them one more time, just because it's really good to kind of cement in what we're supposed to be doing in each of these different activities. So this is all of the ones that we're going to see in just a moment. Let's start back with the setup. On Friday, we need to set up the Bear Creek Fire Department, which means setting up the finish line, putting out road signage, getting those mile markers I mentioned onto the road and onto the finish line. And then we will put a tent, tables, and chairs where they need to be, but we won't pop them up until Saturday morning. So we'll set them in the locations where they're supposed to be on Friday. So they're prepared to be set up, but we won't actually set them up until the next day. And then any of the, we'll cut up the oranges. We have water jugs that will fill up, and it's a busy day. At Seward High School, we'll distribute the road signage. We will probably leave it flat sitting next to the road, and then in the morning we can pop them up. Alternatively, maybe we can have somebody that is a volunteer that has a truck that can go out early Saturday morning before people start showing up and distribute those road signs. And then at Primrose, we need to drop off a tent and tables and set up the starting line there. So this is the Friday. We will meet, for those that are helping us Friday, we will meet at the Bear Creek Fire Station at 9 a.m. And then we will kind of reorganize ourselves and split into groups and then start doing some of these tasks. On the Seward High School side, we're going to have a bib pickup at the Seward High School parking. So we'll have 6 volunteers that will be sitting at a table using these registration books. And I'll give you an example of what a registration books look like in a second. And what they're going to do is they're going to have somebody come up and they're going to give them a bib. So in the past, we've asked for photo ID for that bib. Now, we'd like them to bring one, but this year I'm softening on that. So I think, and where you should ask for an identification is if Joe shows up and he's picking up Mary's bib. Well, no, Joe picks up Joe's bib, not Mary's bib. So sometimes what will happen is a runner won't be able to participate that day, and they say, hey, you can use my bib, and then so they'll show up and they'll attempt to do that. I don't allow that, because I need to make sure that the person running and recording their time is the person that they say they are. So we keep course records and things, and we need to at least have that level of validity to the race. And then we'll have a couple volunteers that are going to be behind these 6 volunteers. Excuse me, my voice is really bad. And then these folks will pull bibs. So we'll have these bibs set into these boxes and organized in such a way that, you know, someone up front will say 214, and whoever has bibs 100 to 300 or 0 to 300 will go grab 214 and hand it to them. So once we get started with this, and we've got folks that have done this before in the past, it goes pretty fluidly, but I wanted to give you an idea. If you're assigned 2 bibs, this is the kinds of things you're going to be doing. When a participant picks up their bib, in the past, we've had them sign the race book, but because of the COVID transmission potential through pens, this year, I'm going to have whoever has that registration book in front of them, and there'll be several. So there'll be, somebody will have like A through C and D through F. And so you have your book and you will sign your name where their name is. So this is just done so that you can say they picked it up and we know they've got it. And we're not having them sign that pin, because then we have to disinfect the pin or give them the pin or have enough pins for everybody. So this just makes things a little simpler. We'll do the same thing when we do t-shirts. So when they come to pick up their shirt, you again will sign for them your name. You just say, for example, if it's my sister Pam, she would sign Pam, and she'd say, Pam, okay, I gave you the bib. The bib tents will be where I showed them near the bus loading area. Mentioned about photo IDs. When we're all done loading the buses and the last bus leaves, we need to break the tables down in the tents and bring those back to Bear Creek. We're going to use them there. And because we're using the U-Haul for the Primrose runners bags, I will need a volunteer with a truck that I can toss this stuff into and take it back. And then at that time, when the truck's coming back, if they could pick up the sign cades also along the way, that'd be great. Then we will have everything from the parking area that we left taken back. The porta potties will be moved by Resurrection Rentals from Seward High School. They'll pump them and then they'll move them over and put them at the Bear Creek Fire Station. So that'll be done about 10 o'clock. They'll show up and move them. So we also want to have some volunteers stationed potentially along the highway, as I mentioned, at Sea Lion and Coolidge to wave traffic through, put people at the choke point. Mike will coordinate this with us. So if you're part of the parking team, we'll meet at 6 o'clock at the Seward High School. I'll bring coffee. So I'll bring several containers of coffee that we can have some coffee and kind of get people allocated in the right spots. Volunteers are going to have to wear a reflective vest. I have those. I picked up a bunch more today just to make sure I have plenty. We also have flags, literal flags, and lights. So we want you very visible. We want to make sure people can see you very easily. I've got a map where I've shown earlier how we want to fill from back to front. Mike is the lead on this, so he will be the last voice. So if his plan is different than my plan, Mike's plan supersedes mine, but I think this is usually how he likes to do it. One of the things I want to keep everybody aware of is oversized vehicles, because people will bring down, their RVs and larger vehicles. We don't allow those. We just don't have enough space for them. I've put this out in the runner announcements, and I've copied you folks, all of the volunteers, on those runners announcements. But an oversized vehicle, as I'm defining it, is one that can't fit into a standard single parking space. So if it wouldn't fit in a parking space at Costco, it's an oversized vehicle, and it's got to find someplace else to park. So we just don't have space for all of those. Let me see. Pick up the signage. Direct folks. Okay, so when you're filling up the vehicles, of course, you want to direct people. We are asking those folks that are getting on a bus, they're in a wave, and I've sent them an assignment for a wave. So I've said, for example, if you're in the 6:30 to 7 wave, so we're asking people, if they show up and they're early, just to wait until their wave starts. We really don't have a whole lot of control over this. The purpose of this and assigning a wave is so we can spread these people out, so we don't have as much aggregation in one spot at one time. We'll see how it works. We're attempting this for the first time. So we'll see as we go through. This will be one of those things we'll talk about on Sunday, I'm sure, when we do our buffet debrief. All right, so I mentioned Seward, they've assigned a bib. Okay, all the participants must wear a bib on the bus, and we are asking them to wear a mask. If they didn't bring a mask, I've got masks. I'm going to have, I think, 750 masks available. So if someone didn't bring a mask, we've got one, we can give it to them. And then we'll be making announcements on the bus, and I'll have a script provided for those that are doing the announcements. This just gives you an idea of like a bus schedule. So it's going to take, we have 6 buses. It'll take 3 trips to get everybody from the Seward High School parking lot out to Primrose. So what'll happen is the first set of folks will leave between 6:30 and 7, and those will be these 3 buses here. And then the second group will be from 7 to 7:30. That'll be the next 3 buses. And so that bus that leaves at 6:30 will get into Primrose about 6:55-ish and unload. It won't take long for them to unload, and then they'll head back at 7, and they'll be back at 7:30 for their second trip. And so then they would go drop their people off at 7:55, return at 8, and get back to Seward High School at 8:30, and if necessary, take a third trip. Typically, it takes 3 trips. We might have a couple buses at the end that don't have to make the third trip, but this gives you a rough idea of how many people we can transport. There's 48 per bus. Not always are the buses going to be full. We try to get them full, but you know, if someone's uncomfortable sitting next to somebody else because of COVID, and okay, good enough. Well, you can have your own seat. So this gives you a rough idea. We've got plenty of capacity to get all 750 runners to the starting line. We have 864 in these 6 buses, and that would get everybody to the run from the Seward High School to the Primrose Campground by 10 o'clock to start, and that's our goal. At Primrose, we will drop a couple of these containers. They will have in them white trash bags, hand sanitizers, and black Sharpie markers. And there'll also be collapsed, but sitting near this, a table, a tent, and some chairs. So when you come out with the U-Haul, you'll need to set up the U-Haul so the back end is backed up next to this table across from where the finish or the starting line is, and then set up this tent, and then you'll fill up the back of the U-Haul. What we ask people to do before they put anything in their runner's bag, and a runner's bag is literally a white trash bag that looks just like this with a zip top, is they lay it down flat on the table and they put their last name, comma, first initial, and then their bib number. That's the only information we need. And with this, we can sort them when they come back. But make sure their first initial and their last name is nice and big. Their second initial, it doesn't have to be big, but it's helpful. And then that bib number. And then they put their stuff in this, tie it up, and then they throw it into the truck. So this allows us then to take personal items that people do not want to take up the trail back to the starting line, and they can recollect them when they're done. So after the last bus has arrived, and we'll keep in touch with the Primrose team, we will break down the starting line. So that includes not only the tent and the tables that were left behind, but also the starting chute. So there'll be some you'll see it'll be sitting up. We need to bring everything from the starting line back. So you just put it all into the U-Haul and then bring that back with you. You will see it set up. The timing team will be there. The timing team will take all their stuff, but you need to bring back any flagging, which is, ropes and barriers and stanchions that's sitting out there. So please make sure you don't leave that behind. Although the cell phone communication is not great, like I'm saying here, you do have enough that we can at least tell you which bus is the last bus, and I'll keep in touch with you folks on that. When you're done, bring that U-Haul back to Bear Creek, and then we're going to unload all those runners' bags, and we sort them out by last name so that when the runners come in, we can quickly identify which bag is theirs and give it to them. So once you get back, let's unload it. We'll get some extra hands to help you, and then I've got some signs that are help with a sort, so A, B, C, D. And then you put those runner bags behind the tent and tables, and we're going to have the volunteers actually retrieve the bags. So what I don't want is I don't want all those bags sitting back there and then people go back and pick up their bag. There's just
too much of an opportunity for a mix-up. I'm not saying somebody's going to steal a bag. It's just that you sometimes grab the wrong bag. So let's just make sure that it's the volunteer that retrieves the bag, and ask them to show you their bib and that the bib number matches the bag. All right. And if that happens, we're great. We've done everything we can to make sure that that person has got their personal belongings back. In terms of shirts, the 2019, for those that aren't familiar with this, just a little history. In 2019, we did not have a race because there was fire on the Kenai Peninsula that created so much smoke that it was a smoke hazard. The air quality index, where 30 is okay, we were at 600. Coincidentally, at the same time, there was a flood in Kenai Lake, and it covered the Primrose parking lot, which was our starting line. So our starting line was also under 2 feet of water. So fire and flood canceled the 2019 Lost Lake Run the first time, and that would have been our 27th or 28th that had been canceled. The t-shirts that year, we decided for everybody who was a participant, we would give them their shirt. We had already printed them, they were done. Our rule up until then had been, if you don't finish the race, you don't get a shirt. So the runner's shirts are for finishers. We don't give you the shirt if you just buy a registration. You have to finish the race. So if someone has a Lost Lake Run t-shirt, they have done the Lost Lake Run. And that's been important to us. That's been handed down to us from Marcia Vincent, and we are continuing to do that. So in 2021, that will also be the case. But for 2019, we relaxed the rule, special exceptions. So we made 3 opportunities in 2019 to hand out those shirts. And we did one in Anchorage, one in Kenai, and one in Seward. But still, not everybody got their shirt. So what we're doing is in 2021, we're setting up another t-shirt collection table. So it's separate from the 2021 t-shirts, just because I think it's going to be a lot easier that way. So we'll have folks handing out 2019 shirts and those doing the 2021 shirts. So these are what the 2 shirts are going to look like. So this is what the 2021 shirt will look like, and it's going to be on a sort of like a neon green background. The volunteer shirts, although we use the same symbol, are different, so they don't look the same. Anyway, for 2021 shirts, we're asking when someone comes up, they need to present their bib to get their shirt. So if someone comes up and they say, my name's Bob Francis, just pulling a name out of the air, I need my shirt. Well, show me your bib. So if they don't have a bib, they can't get a shirt. They should have a bib because the bib got them across the starting line, and they've only had to go 100 yards to get to the t-shirt station. So, they need the bib. For 2019, all we want them to do is show us their photo ID, and they can get their shirt. So we just want to make sure that they are who they say they are. So when a participant picks up their 2021 shirt, as I mentioned before, instead of having the participant sign that they've received the shirt, we're going to have the volunteer do it. There are also mugs that I make each year, and I give those out to legends, fundraisers, and team leaders. And I've identified people in the book. So if you see a designation for one of those, in addition to the t-shirt, this is at the 2021 location, they would also get a mug. So if someone, and this happens all the time, they says, oh, I tried it on and it's a little too tight or it's too loose or whatever. Can I get a size up or a size down? The answer is maybe. And so what you have to say to people, because we buy a certain amount of each size based on what they told us their size was. So what we tell people is wait until 3:30 when most everybody's in and come back. And if we have that size available, then we'll swap it. If we don't, we won't. So sometimes we're able to do it, sometimes we're not. But this way, we're not swapping, taking a shirt from somebody else that could be allocated for them in a swap. So just be cognizant of that. And as always, if there's any problems or issues, just call me, text me, yell at me. I'll be around. I'm usually down at the timing area but find me and I will resolve the issue. It's not something you have to deal with. Just say, well, wait a minute, let me go find Pat. We'll get this solved. So this is what a registration book looks like this year. So this is literally the first page of the registration book. So you'll see that they're alphabetized by last name. Oops. And then this tells what bus wave they've been assigned to. You don't feel like you got to be the bus wave police, but you could say when they show up, if they show up at 7 a.m. and they're in the 9 a.m. bus wave, you can say, well, your bus wave is another 2 hours. Could you come back then? If they make a stink, don't worry about it. Just let them on the bus. It's not worth our time and effort, especially for something like this. But most people will be agreeable. Then there's a date of birth, their sex, and then the bib number is what you'll call out. And then when they pick up their bib, the volunteer will sign here. This just designates that, Elizabeth got her bib. And then when she comes back, when she's finished the race, she'll present bib number 310, and you'll have the book. And you'll say, oh, she gets a large. So you grab a large shirt, sign it out for her. And you'll see that she's not getting a mug. But down here, Paul Adkins, he is, because he's a fundraiser. See, these people have raised $400 or more. So we want to recognize their additional effort. A legend is someone who's had 12 official finishes or more. So if they've got, like, for example, Paul, he gets his medium shirt, the volunteer signs here, and then you'd also grab a mug and hand that to him. Okay. We've got some questions in the chat. So let me take a moment to take a break and kind of go through these questions, and then we'll continue on. Turn off your headset or computer, one or the other. Am I echoing? Okay, Mike is here, good. James Boring's not going to be able to join me. I'm trying to find a friend to come with me. It's okay. Do we know mile markers medical personnel will be staged in case trail sweepers come across injured? I'll save that, and Nicholas, I'll ask him to provide an input to tell us where approximately on which mile markers there'll be medical personnel. Carla Beam says, I didn't see my name on the volunteer list. Okay, Carla, let me look at that later and we'll address that, but it should be on there somewhere. McCasser says, we can probably leave between 12 and 2 if you need help on Friday. Who should we contact when we arrive? So if you come in after 9 a.m., come to the Bear Creek Fire Station. That's where most folks will be. And then we can, if you do come in on Friday, and we'll certainly use your help. So this is Lauren. I have a truck and I'm on bibs anyway. Great. Thank you, Lauren. We'll take advantage of that. Pamela says, can one spouse pick up a bib for another spouse if they're both in the run? I'll leave that up to you, Pam. You can decide. If you feel comfortable with it, sure. That's less likely than I'm here to pick up Joe's bib and it's somebody with a different last name. So that works for me. Where do we direct oversized vehicles? I have no idea. I have no idea where we would direct oversized vehicles. We just know we can't park them there. So that's unfortunate. Iverson's, will have a first aid kit? Great. Thank you. Pamela says, at bib pickup, can we inform runners bibs and masks required on bus? Yes, please remind them. Thank you. That's a good idea. So when they come to pick up their bibs, say, please wear your mask on the bus. And at that point, we will have masks. If they don't have one, we can hand them one. Gary Green says, what protocols did the bus company come up with? Disinfection between rides, windows open. I know you were going to follow up. I still have not talked to them about that, Gary. So I will follow up when I get that. See. Tyson says, we aren't signed up, but is there a place we can sign up to be a volunteer? Is it too late? No, Tyson, I talked to your mom or your friend's mom, but yes, we will get you signed up, but that was a very last minute thing. So we'll do that. So I will contact you, Tyson, afterwards. Julian Fisher says, will fastest runners be on first bus? I want to know when first runners reach the top of Trailwater Station. That's a good question, Julian. So what's happening is the first trip of buses, the first 6 buses that go out will be our slowest runners. There's approximately 225, 230. And that's roughly equivalent to the walkers starting at 8 o'clock. And then the first bus that comes out with the second trip will have the fast runners on it. And so that they are going to leave approximately at 8-ish, maybe 8:30. So they will be leaving earlier than they have in the past, or maybe it's, let me go back for a second. So the first bus in trip 2, yes, at 8 o'clock, the fastest runners will hit the trail. And so then at that point, from 8 o'clock going forward, they're from fastest to slowest. But these are the very slowest. The first 6 buses are our very slowest runners or walkers. And they're the ones that have said that they're 4 to 5 hours or 5 hours plus. Gary wants everyone to know that on behalf of the CF Foundation, he wants to thank you for volunteering. Oh, so Gary, you're not going to be here. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's the first time. So Gary Green has been coming to every Lost Lake run since 1992. He's not missed one. So this will be the first time in the 30th year. So it's a bummer. We'll miss you. Okay. Julian says, I have 4 vehicles to park on Primrose Friday night to transport scouts. Where in Primrose can we park? In the parking lot, Julian. So in the parking lot itself, there should be plenty of space there. What are the plans for the virtual awards ceremony? I'll get to that in a moment. Mike Schlegel says, do you want a reader board for parking on the highway? If we can get one, that would be great. Why don't you and I talk tomorrow, Mike, and you can tell me what the ins and outs would be for getting that, cost and getting it down there and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let me return back to this. We're almost through. So the registration book, then for 2019 shirts, it's the photo ID. Otherwise, it's basically the same thing. We're not giving out mugs to folks from 2019. Although I say there are mugs given out. That's a cut and paste-o. So please, I'll fix that. That's not true. So there are no mugs for 2019. For parking monitors, we would want the parking monitors to make sure that the buses can get in and out of Bear Creek, and at the same time, we want you to stop people from either coming in and parking or pulling up and dropping people off. It's just too dangerous. And so there's going to be people that are going to park across the street, and don't worry about them. If they do that and they get a ticket or they get run over, that's on them. But in front of the Bear Creek Fire Station, we don't want anybody parking there. And we don't want anybody parking in the Bear Creek area where we're going to be. So that's the monitors, just ask them to move along. And then we've got plenty of room for buses and other people. Some of this is redundant from earlier, and we will have marked off the areas behind the Bear Creek Fire Station, and that'll be done on Friday. Okay. Sandwiches. Deanna is bringing, I think we have 850 sandwiches, somewhere in that ballpark, on Friday. So we will have enough for every runner and every volunteer. So once we have the last runner leave Seward High School, we want to race back and start setting up Bear Creek. And you want to help Deanna, if you're part of the sandwich team, to get the tent and the tables and everything set up. In the past, we sold tickets for a barbecue so family and friends could get a burger. This year, I don't think we have enough sandwiches so that we could give somebody to give them seconds, or have one for my buddy Joe or my mom, or we just don't have that many sandwiches. So unfortunately, at this point, we're limiting it to one per participant. I'm also asking that there's not any spectators that come to the finish line or the starting line, just to keep our COVID down. So hopefully these kind of requests won't even happen because those people won't be there. But anyway, let's work with that and see how it goes. On hydration, I'm going to have 1,440 bottles of water. There's 60 cases of 20-ounce water bottles. So there's going to be plenty of water. I'm also going to have some jugs filled up. Some of those jugs will pre-fill with Gatorade. And so we'll have plenty of water. We'll get everybody hydrated. And those water bottles will be set out by the tent so that you won't have to haul them on Saturday morning. We'll do that Friday. Oranges, we'll try to cut all those oranges up on Friday. What we do is we take all the oranges out of a box. We put a plastic bag back into the box. We cut the oranges up and put the oranges back into the plastic bag, close the bag up, put the lid on, and then the box, you just open it up and you have oranges ready for people to consume, and they just come up and grab them. Not any big changes for photography, but I do want to get the raw photos Sunday at the brunch so that I can use the pictures of the winners in the awards ceremony. The awards ceremony will be Tuesday night at 6 o'clock by Zoom. So we will go through the Marsha Vincent Award winners, the teams, and then the individuals. Medical, I will, if Stephanie's not online, I will follow up with her, but we want to make sure she has everything she needs. But usually we bring a cooler with ice and she brings medical supplies. Trail sweep team we've mentioned, but Iverson's check in with me on Friday, and I'll give you the sat phone. And then when you come back Saturday night or even Sunday at the brunch on Sunday, bring it with you and hand it back. We rent 4 sat phones. There'll be a sat phone with with Julian at the top of the trail. There'll be a sat phone with the trail sweep team. There'll be a sat phone that we give to the trail markers that they'll give back to me. There'll be a sat phone, 2 sat phones with Nicholas's team. So there'll be a lot of communication available on the trail. So here's how I'm going to handle it. If there's anyone injured on the Primrose side, I'm going to have the Iversons and Craig connect. So we'll make sure that the Iversons with their sat phone have Craig's cell number, and he'll be sitting down in the parking lot. And you guys figure out what the best thing is to do. Bring Nicholas into the loop as necessary. I mean, if it's just somebody's got a bum ankle and they need to walk out and Craig's going to help them, or, you guys figure that out and then let me know what you've decided to do so that I'm in the loop. But you guys are going to be on the ground and making the decisions. Hopefully, it won't be anything drastic. And then bring me into the loop once you kind of figured out what the best course of action is. I trust that you guys will know what to do. And so that's the injury side. Tanya and the Crawbackers will be marking the trail on Friday. I'm going to meet them at 7:30 and on Friday morning. I'll bring the sat phone, the trail markers, the stakes, and the wheel. They did this last year. They're really good at it. And so what I will do is I will get their car keys, and I and another volunteer will move your car to the Lost Lake Trailhead so that when you come off the trail, you can get in your car and then come find me, give me the sat phone and the equipment and so on, and then you continue on to your hotel room. So trailheads, we mentioned this before. Craig will be at Primrose. We'll have Lauren located at the Lost Lake Trailhead, and we'll want to get those people set up at Lost Lake about no later than 10:30, because I think that's when our first runners will start coming through. Top of trail, Julian and Bob, and I think it's either DOEL or DIEHL, either Dole or Dial, and I apologize to Bob for getting that wrong. But they are leading Troop 26 at the top. They've been doing this for 10 or 11 years. This is an amazing group, and we are very thankful. So they will coordinate with Nicholas and the trail medic team to how to best handle emergencies. They'll have a sat phone, and then they'll be spreading out and masking up this year. So when they're handing out water, we'll be safe. The medic team is going to have shirts this year so that it's easy to spot them on the trail. They'll be red. They'll look like this. They'll have a little logo. So Nicholas, Heather Liller, and their team of, I think there's 8 or 10, will be wearing these, and they'll be easy to find. Breakdown, we're almost at the end here. This is when everybody who's left around 3 or 3:30 will start, will notice that things that are really kind of at the end, and we'll start picking things up, pulling tents together, and start getting to the point where we're going to load the U-Haul. I would like it if I could be there when you load the U-Haul, because it makes it easier for me when I'm unloading it. I have to put all this stuff away, and there's just kind of an order. So if you could let me know when you're going to start loading the U-Haul, and then I'll come and we can work together on that. Okay, finishing up with hotel assignments. So at the Windsong Lodge, we've got the Crawbackers, the Lillers, the McCaslins, and the Borings. The first guest in the list is probably the one listed. So if you show up, give them the guest one's name. If they don't have that one, try guest two. But I've notified each of these different properties, each of these hotels, who's going to be the guests. At the Murphy Inn, I will be there, sharing a room with my sister, the Schlegels, the Iversons, Julianne and David, the photographers, and then the barbecue team, Deanna and Natani, Candy and Rhonda will all be there. So that'll be at the Murphy. At the Breeze Inn, I've got Mike, Olive, and Reese, Vivian, and Carla Beam. So Carla, I saw your text. I have you as a hotel room, so I'm just not sure why we couldn't find your name on the list. Who will do that? And then at the Harbor View, I've got just single queen beds. So at the Breeze Inn, it's a queen and a double. So I tried to put couples together. I got to tell you, getting hotel rooms in Seward for this time of the year is like pulling teeth. It's really, really hard, and it's expensive. So anyway, the Matt Lee, Justin and Dee are in one room. Jackie Keating, Warren Schaefer, Brian and Deanna, or excuse me, Brian and Donna in one. Laura, the DeGrays, and then Craig. So that's the Harbor View. So let me go back to the chat and see if there's any last minute. Robin says, do we ride the bus to the start? Yes. Yeah, I would suggest that, Robin, because and take one of the last buses, because there's no sense you sitting out there and getting chilled or waiting for everybody to go through. I would hang out at Seward High School and take the very last bus out and be part of the sweep team. Julian asked, can I pick up the sat phone in Anchorage? Yes, you can. I'm picking it up Thursday. So Julian, what I will do is I will leave the sat phone in the usual spot underneath the stairs there at the property on Shoshone. Deanna says, I'll have 2 coolers with ice. When the sandwiches are given good. Let me see. What time do you want me to be at the Lost Lake Trailhead for medical? Lori Landstrom, thank you. I'd like you there by 10:30. That's when we expect the first person to come through, and probably till 3:30. Craig can spell you when he comes in. So, and then Nicholas, would you please coordinate with Lori? She's a PA, so you've got somebody with some real medical skills there. The Hutchings says on a hotel list, what time do we start parking? Let me see, did we have the Hutchings on the hotel list? If not, have the Hutchings get a hold of me. And we start parking at 6 o'clock. So we meet at 6 o'clock at the Seward High School at the spot that's outlined for bib pickup. Do we have room for Friday night to help me set up an addition Saturday? That's rooms are for Friday and Saturday nights for everybody. Everybody's hotel room is for Friday night and Saturday night both. So there's no rooms for just one night. They're all 2-night rooms. This is from Kathy. She says oranges probably should have some sort of COVID sanitation, or have a person wearing disposable gloves take the oranges out and hand the oranges to the person. That sounds like a great idea. We'll do that. I have nitrile gloves, lots of them. So the people there, I will leave a box or 2 so that that can be done. That's a great idea. Maybe we can put them in cups so we can, people can glove up, put them in cups, and then hand out a cup. Let me see if I've got everybody. Let me see. Can photo park at Bear Creek start line as in years past? Why don't we talk on offline about that, Julianne? But at this point, yeah, let's sort that out, because I know you're going to be running back and forth. So I understand that would be a good idea. Okay, for bag drop team folks to go in Primrose on the bus, or do we need, so it says, this is from Marilee, says, okay, for bag drop team folks to go to Primrose on the bus, or do we need to maybe carpool and go out to get there before the first bus? You need to carpool and go out before on the first bus. And so somebody will probably drive in a car, and then somebody will need to take out the U-Haul. So if you're on the bag drop team, I will need to coordinate with you on Friday so that you can get the keys from me Saturday morning, so you can take that out empty and use it to pick up the bags. And then you'll probably need to take a second car because there's just not a lot of room in a U-Haul, and there's 4 of you going out. Deanna says, I logged out and did not hear your answer. Logged out. Okay. Send me an email, Deanna, or we can talk tomorrow. All right. I think I've got most of these. So if there's any last minute questions, let's put those through now. Otherwise, what I will do is send out this PDF to everybody on our list. Those folks that I'm going to follow up with, let's do that by email and phone call over the next day. My schedule is tomorrow, I'm running around and picking up things locally. Thursday, I get the U-Haul and start loading it. And then really early Friday morning, I'm heading to Seward in the U-Haul to meet the trail marking team at 7:30. So I'm going to be leaving Anchorage around 5 a.m. And then I will go from there and meet everybody that's helping us on Friday at Bear Creek Fire Station at 9 a.m. So if you're helping on Friday, please try to meet us there at 9 a.m. and we'll reorganize ourselves, self-organize ourselves, and start knocking off those Friday items. All right, so I don't see anything else. So with that, let me end by saying thank you, because without you folks, this just is not possible. And so it's, I understand that's a lot of time and effort on your part, and you're doing this. And I just want you to know that I'm thankful for it. For those that are not associated with cystic fibrosis on a regular basis, I can tell you that the money we're raising is making a significant difference. There's a drug called Trikafta that the CF Foundation funded the original research on. Monies that we raised participated in that funding, and it has changed the lives of 90% of those people with cystic fibrosis. We're really making a difference in the lives of so many people. So thank you very much for your help. And I look forward to personally thanking all of you. Let's have a great weekend. Let's hope for some great weather. And I'll see you all on Friday or Saturday. Thank you, everybody.